Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and today on the show I have one of my favorite guests back to talk about his new book, Muhammad, The Last Prophets. This book I want to talk to you about on three levels: the literary level, the political, social level, and then, of course, the spiritual level. So, as a literary book, I found this fascinating.
Good. I'm happy.
I think you've created a tapestry of someone's life that is very well put together, and you get a sense of the person. You get the mystery of the person, and you get the sense of this awesome figure. So what inspired you? Were you influenced by, like, Citizen Kane? Because it has that kind of a feel to it.
No, I was just kind of trying to figure out how do you write about a person who's so multifaceted. And I thought the best way to do it is through a number of people who saw him with different lenses of perception. So I got to know these people. You know, I tried to look up the history of these people: Halima, the wet nurse; Baraka, the Hanif, the mystic; the Christian mystic Bashira was a very interesting character, actually, because he's there in the mountains on the route to Damascus, and he has this premonition that he knows that the young boy is going to be coming. Even his enemy, Sufyan, you know, and Ali, his son-in-law, and the one who is now responsible for all the Shias. So all these people were very interesting people, but they didn't look at him. Some were friends, some were believers, some were enemies, some were caretakers.
So there's 18 different perspectives in this book, and it's more than just talking about the character. You're actually embodying the character. So in a sense, you're feeling these people.
Yeah, I'm feeling these people, and I thought if I weave the tapestry and tell the story through these people and show the links, then we have a really good story. You know, actually it's a very interesting story because it's a story of adventure. It's also the story of revelation. I've always been mystified by what revelation is. So here's a guy, he's in the mountain, he's in a cave, he's gone there to be in solitude, he doesn't know how to read or write, and suddenly the angel Gabriel appears and says, recite in the name of the Lord who created human life from drops of congealed blood. Recite, for your Lord is ever bountiful, teaches by the book, and will reveal to you what has never been revealed before. I mean, that must be a stunning experience.
Right.
And frightening to him, actually.
It's frightening, and you know, history is dotted with people who've had divine revelation, all with their different take, filtered through their culture and their personality, but also institutions are full of people that also say they have divine revelation. So when does it make one's sure of one's sense of revelation, and when is one just off? Because obviously it was power, and in India we'd say Shakti, right? So,
but today, I mean, today if you go to places like Sedona or all the people that you interview, I mean, there is a lot of so-called channeling, right?
Exactly.
And so what are people channeling? They're channeling something from, we would say, the matrix, the
non-local consciousness.
Non-local consciousness, which is a confluence of probability clouds with thought forms, and embodies histories of collective experience, collective karma, collective revelation. So, you know, these days we know about it a lot more than we did then. A human nervous system, when it's in a state of innocence and purity, can do that, obviously.
But what made Muhammad so powerful, and what was it that you felt, because his influence on, I mean, 1.4 billion Muslims on the planet now, what was it about this revelation?
What was startling about this revelation is he doesn't claim to be connected to the divine as in divinity, you know, Jesus, after all, I'm the Son of God.
Right.
Besides, Jesus is conceived of virgin birth. The only person I know of who was also conceived of
although
was
Jesus
Adam.
didn't say that.
Okay, but that's what Christians believe.
Right.
Adam and Jesus are the two ones that were came out of a sperm. And then, you know, Buddha says, I'm enlightened, and I can show you the way. Muhammad doesn't say that. Muhammad says, I'm a man among men, and everything that good happens comes from Allah. And everything that's not so good, I'll take the responsibility and the blame. He also has, I mean, what we would call, I think today, in all fairness, he has shadows, and he has a struggle. He, on the one side, there's the awe of revelation, and on the other side, he's surrounded by violence, you know, and he gets sucked into it too. So, you know, I think for me, Muhammad is not so clear. He's full of paradox, ambiguity at some points, contradiction, and yet there is the awe of revelation. There's the ring of truth. You know, I grew up in India, so I was familiar with the call of the muezzin, and of course I used to frequent all these Sufi haunts in my childhood with my dad, and also because I had lots of Muslim friends, I had heard the Quran. Now, you know, it's very interesting when you hear the Quran, because even if you don't know the language, it has that grammatical quality that is called onomatopoeia, where the sound echoes the sense, you know. So in English, for example, Dry clashed his harness in the icy caves, and the bare black cliff clanged round him as he based his feet on juts of slippery crag that rang sharp smitten with the dint of armed heels. That's Tennyson, who was a master of onomatopoeia.
Words and expression.
And Shakespeare to a great extent, you know, he brought that. But this is that kind of quality of recitation from a man. When he hears the word recite, he doesn't know what's happening to him. And then he goes on to actually come up with this absolutely amazing stuff.
Well, I was a little afraid for you when I heard you were writing this book, because it's quite a risky thing these days.
Everywhere I go, people say that. Are you afraid of fatwa? I've, in fact, had conversations with Irshad Manji and a few other people who have had fatwas, and, you know, I didn't think of that at all when I was writing the book. I'm writing a great story about a great person who's influenced a great many of people and is still influencing the political climate of this country and everywhere else in the world. So I was writing that story. Now, when it was brought up by the Deborah Solomon of the New York Times and people started repeating it, I thought to myself, yes, and I just wrote a piece for the Chronicle, which will appear Monday. I said, why should we have to step or tiptoe as if we're walking on eggshells when we talk about Muhammad the Prophet or about Islam in general? It's not right that we should have to be so scared to do that. I mean, every day I see criticism of Christianity, of Judaism, of Hindus, and there's a lot of, you know, in the Old Testament,
fanatics in all those religions.
So I see that all the time. So, you know, I think, Alan, let's stop all of us being too polite, and let's say, you know, we know that the majority of Muslims are moderates. Come on, guys, speak up. Okay, speak up. Don't let your religion get hijacked by a few fundamentalists. They're hijacking your religion. They're hijacking your culture. Don't let it happen. Of course, when somebody speaks up, like the Imam here, who's been involved in, you know, interfaith dialogue and Sufism for the last 10 years, and he's building an Islamic center, which is more like a YMCA. And suddenly everybody lumps him with all the others. So, you know, it's a crazy world right now.
The Islamic friends I've had are beautiful, loving. The countries I've been to, they welcome me in. So I don't have a problem. And it's a beautiful portrayal of a human being.
I'm glad you think so.
I do, but it tells me more about you somehow. Because it's not so much about Muhammad, it's about the people who see Muhammad. So how did you embody more of that? What did you learn about yourself by being the wet nurse, by being the beggar on the street? That's what I'm really interested in.
So in a sense, all these people are archetypes. And, you know, your essential state is infinite possibilities. I have an exercise I do once in a while. I go into the non-local domain through meditation. I then go into a field of possibilities. It's like a light that pulsates. And I disappear into it, and then I emerge as whoever I want to. And I've been doing that for years and years. I can emerge as Aphrodite or Zeus.
So you go into a state
Krishna.
and you embody then their consciousness. Is that what you're
then
saying?
I say, I want to look at the world through their eyes. I want to walk like them. I want to talk to them like them. I want to perceive like them. And it starts to happen. Of course, before that, I have, to some extent, studied them.
And you did that for this book.
Oh, yeah, for 2 years.
You went into that non-local state and you became the wet nurse and the beggar on the street.
Yeah. They're all qualities, right? One is a quality of compassion and caring and motherhood. The other is a quality of playing the fool, because the beggar is more playing the fool archetype than anybody else.
But you get the sense of these characters as real people.
Most of them are in the book, you know. In the end, we have a prostitute, but her story is more about redemption than anything else, you know, because she gets redemption just through the knowledge or just through the fervor that is arising in the collective consciousness. And Muslims are becoming one people, they're looking to one God, they're embracing their self-esteem. So it's very interesting to me, that whole process.
So as a literary novel, it's very fascinating. You get the sense of the desert, these big, wide open spaces, and the sense of the Arabs as a people. And what Muhammad did is
bring them together
as a force.
As a force, and we're still contending with that force in the world.
And the way he did it was the way, I guess, all religions do it. The Hindus have the Bhagavad Gita, the Jews have the King David war, through war and conquering.
Well, in the beginning, remember, they were persecuted. They were like the Jews. They went and they fled Mecca. And, you know, when they fled Mecca, there were 12 of them. You know, so they came from a history of persecution, and then, you know, resistance, and then conflict, and then ultimately victory. There's a passage where Muhammad says, first they despise you, then they listen to you, and then they join you.
Right. It sounds like Schopenhauer's thing. First they ignore it, then they deny it. But now, as far as the history, I found fascinating. There was a well there in Mecca. Let's talk a little bit, and then the Kaaba, because I think the Kaaba is really a holy place. People have mystical experiences. So talk about that development of the Arab personality and culture. So,
well, it's actually the way I heard it when I grew up, which is the Kaaba.
Kaaba.
Okay, it's the Kaaba. It's a sacred place. And it's actually related to the English word cube, because it's shaped like a cube. Okay,
or the Ka and the Ba, the Kabbalah.
Kabbalah also. And the Kaaba has a history, mythologically anyway, that it is the place that Abraham came to, and he set the stone there for the Kaaba to be built. Abraham, as you know, had two wives, Sarah and Hagar. And there's a different interpretation among those. Careful to kind of take both sides, in a sense. According to the Jews, Sarah told Abraham, throw her out. I don't want another wife here. You're fooling around with this other woman. According to the Arabs, God commanded Abraham to set Hagar and her son Ishmael to go to the Kaaba. He said, I'll come there, and you will find a sacred river, and you will propagate my race over there. So it was at the commandment of God. So actually the Arabs have great regard not only for Abraham, but for Sarah, because, you know, the Arabs venerate Sarah, and actually Arabs also venerate the Virgin Mary as two of the most exalted characters in the entire history of religion. And they say it was God's commandment to create these two races. Okay, the Arabs and the Jews, who of course they're both Semites. You know, when we say anti-Semitic, we usually say refer to the Jews, but actually Arabs are also Semites.
They're brothers, really, and they go all this back. So how do we take these two tribes, the history of Muhammad and Islam and Judaism and Christianity, and create a new world now? Because in a sense, in the world of new consciousness, it's over. Let's take it to another level. Tell me.
Well, first of all, once you recognize this is a family feud, and it has all the characteristics of a family feud, you know, they're fighting over the same things. When a parent dies, families fight over property rights, the will, and so on. And they're still doing that. Secondly, they have more in common. Actually, Arabs and Jews have more in common than any other groups of people in the world. the Arabs, the Jews, and the Christians are known as the people of the book,
Right.
because they all believe in the Old Testament. The Arabs also believe in the New Testament. You know, Jesus is mentioned so many times. Of course, Moses is mentioned innumerable times. There are 25 prophets that are mentioned in the Quran from the Old Testament.
Right.
And actually, he says there are 125 that I'm not mentioning because there's so many of them. And I am the latest in that line.
Right.
So they have so much in common that we need to see what are the commonalities here. Secondly, I think the time has come to get over our psychosis and stop trying to solve a problem at the level of consciousness at which it was created.
That's right.
Because that's what we keep doing over and over and over again.
So
and
what's
say,
the problem? The problem is war, this my land, this your land, and how do we get to the next level?
you know, if you've done any work with Don Beck and spiral dynamics,
Right.
you're familiar with that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That's where you have to go. You have to say, what level of consciousness is this conflict arising at? What level of consciousness do we move up to? And when you move up to a new level of consciousness, there's diminution of the tension that arose from the last level of consciousness. So, you know, instead of saying Arabs and Jews, let's say Semites. Okay, they're both Semites, right?
Right.
Let's say cousins. Let's say same father. Let's see the universal principles that actually unite them. And then move up to another level and another level. Because ultimately, Alan, we've all got to transcend our national, our racial, our ethnic boundaries. You know, as long as you think of yourself as a Jew and I think of myself as a Muslim, we have a problem.
Right. So you are a really, I think, great spokesman for this non-local awareness.
Identity.
Yes.
Am I a citizen of my tribe? Am I a citizen of my nation? Am I a citizen of this planet? Or am I a cosmic citizen? You know, I need to, aham brahmasmi, I need to get to that level where I can see that I'm a citizen of the cosmos.
That's the level we have to pull the whole planet to. Yes, you. So I think you're doing a great thing because you're talking to Muslims and non-Muslims with this book. And with who you are within this new conscious movement, you're trying to raise it all up. Now, are people listening? Will people give up their identification with Jew?
Well, there's a lot of buzz. If I look at the internet or Twitter, the book is creating a buzz. I mean, in Indonesia, in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East. People haven't read it. They're very curious, okay? Some people are saying, oh, he's probably committed blasphemy. And, you know, I am not responding to anyone, but the other day I was here to see somebody who's at the Clinton Global Initiative.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a UN conference going on. New York is packed with people.
Right.
All the hotels are booked. So I was getting into the elevator, and I saw a very lovely woman in a hijab. She was wearing the Arab headdress, and it was clear that she was from Saudi Arabia. And we got into the elevator, and she looked at me. She says, you know, you do have a lot of fans in Saudi Arabia, and they're very curious about Muhammad, which is, I believe, coming out day after tomorrow. And I actually have been instructed to buy a bunch from Barnes & Noble or whatever to take them for friends. And people are kind of wondering if you've committed blasphemy. I said, read the book.
But you
she was
haven't.
very articulate, by the way. She was a CEO of a major company. So, you know, again, we have these stereotypes. Yeah?
Right.
This is a woman who's, of course, she's dressed like an Arab, but she's the CEO of a major international conglomerate. Okay?
But look, though, women, I mean, not in all Arab countries, but women still have to dress that way. I mean, there's an inequality,
Alan,
right?
when people wear mini skirts, expose their boobs, go out in public, we say, you know, some people resent that too.
Right.
Okay, so both issues, that and the other, are about sexuality. And it's about sexuality as it is perpetrated by male chauvinists on both sides. Okay, because all the glamour and all the sexual exploitation you see in the West is by males, you know, at
but
the
women
cost
at
of
least
women.
have a choice in the West, or they think they do. Maybe
Oh, in many places in the Muslim world, they have a choice. In India, it's regarded as a veil in the Muslims in the Sufi tradition. Half the poetry is waiting for the veil to come off to see this beautiful woman.
Right.
It's very romantic.
But don't you feel there's something different in the West where you can meet a woman face to face and not have the sexual allure, but the equality of beingness? That's what I find.
It's coming everywhere. I think we need to make ourselves aware of the cultural, the religious, the historical, the economic context in which all this happened. And then we have to see, you need a reformation in Islam as you need in every other religion.
And globally, which is what we're doing, we are reforming the planet to be these cosmic beings.
Yeah, we are not. It's happening through us.
Well, like trying to do something big here.
Right.
And let's just finish with this idea, if we are cosmic beings, and this idea of divine revelation, how do we know when God is speaking through us? Or maybe it is all the time.
You're inspired. There's no going back. It's like a child that is born. Cannot return to the womb, and you not only change yourself, you transform other people, and you move in the direction of truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, evolution, love, compassion, kindness, joy, equanimity, peace of mind.
So tell me, how are you doing that in your life, personally? What goes on for you?
It's my life. I mean, I spend 2-3 hours every day in meditation. I meditate sometimes through the night. I visit these people in my consciousness. I'm now going to do a book called When God Spoke, not the one with Malad Noy, who's Stephen Hawking's co-author. That's a science book.
Right.
But I'm doing a book about when God spoke. So I'm looking at every saint in the Western and Eastern tradition, from St. John of the Cross, so St. Teresa of Avila, Catherine of Genoa, Lao Tzu. I'm going to visit their consciousness and speak through them.
Well, even Amachi,
Sure.
have you met her?
I've had very good experience.
There's divine consciousness, but actually through every artist, there's a divine
There's
inspiration.
a particular frequency domain of the divine, sure.
There is actually through everything we say, like where is the divine not speaking, is what Rumi would say, right?
There's nothing other than God,
There's nothing other than God. So where do you see the planet go? I mean, how can we reform the world? I mean, what do you want Muslims to take away?
I'm telling you, I'm detached. I put it out there. Let's see what happens. I leave the results to the unknown, to God.
So what would you like someone, I mean, of course you're leaving
I want to expand this conversation.
Yes.
I want to see the beauty of Sufism and many of the Islamic traditions. I want, I also work for Gallup and we do surveys. 65% of Americans say they know nothing about Islam or about the Prophet, and yet they don't trust them. So, when you don't know anybody, you tend to demonize them and then you attack them. The other day, somebody in New York asked a cab driver, "Are you Muslim?" He said, "Yes," and he stabbed him. Okay, this happened right here in Manhattan. So, we have to stop demonizing the other, because when we know the other, we'll know that the other is myself in disguise.
And the Sufis I've met are so full of love and so full of...
It's only about love.
And I just want to ask you about this. You say in the beginning about Muhammad, about his fear and his and not knowing, and he appeals because he remade the world by going inward.
It's the only way to remake the world,
I think that's the big message of this book.
Right.
And you embodying these characters and showing who Muhammad is through these eyes, you are remaking the world by your path inward.
Doing my little bit.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate
Thank you,
your time. What do we have to look forward to? This book about when we talk to God? I mean...
No, that's called When God Spoke. And it's again fictionalized, but all the saints. East and West.
And you're going to be speaking as the saints.
Through them,
Another blasphemy.
Yeah.
But that's beautiful.
I'm going to speak through them,
Do you feel something's as you embody? Do you get a...
It's an archetypal consciousness that you can embody,
No, but for you, do you get like a lift? Do you get
I do.
an expansion?
Amazing lift,
So is Deepak disappearing in a sense, this personality?
I am the many in the one.
Well, we all are, right?
Most of us are the one in the many, but I'm embodying the many in the one.
But what's rubbing off on you as you go into these? How is your consciousness changing?
Much more present, much more alert, much more peaceful, and somehow tapping into something which is bigger than me.
You feel that? I feel that too. You are more present. And I've been talking to Deepak Chopra about his latest book, Muhammad, the Last Prophet. Very well done. Great literary novel. I recommend it for Islamics and people who are of any faith. So thank you. Thank you for being here.